Now, PowerPoint, all right. You know, one thing we didn't talk about before I start was safety in the wintertime. Well, first of all, we're starting, we're getting more scopes and things. And I think terrible weather this isn't a survey that has to be done on a certain time of a certain day. So if the weather is lousy, we're trying to see if the birds are there and it's bad for the equipment, then I personally would, if I could go the next day, it was going to be better weather, I would. If tide, but in December, there's only a few days that have good tide and adequate daylight. So you don't have very many choices, but I mean, maybe that's like tweaking the data, to go during good weather, because if it's random, you're going to get bad weather. But it's difficult, and we also want to take care of ourselves. And I would not go down, in weather that you think a bluff could be sloughing. Don't want to be there then. So what do you think? You got anything to add to that, Terrence?
Yeah, so there are when there's months where there's like basically just a handful of days where you can actually get out and you can't get out, let us know. We do actually have a couple folks who do boat surveys, and so we can get out potentially if the weather is not too windy, and we can cover that more easily, because some of these sites, there's a lot of woody debris on the beach, and with the higher tides and with the limited daylight, there might be just a confluence of different factors that makes surveying just that much harder, or that much riskier. So we want to make sure that you're not taking unnecessary risks just for the sake of doing a survey. I mean, we appreciate your dedication, but we want to make sure that you're doing it safely and that you're having fun, and getting hurt's no fun. So.
Yeah, and the other item is frosty, icy stairs and rocks. So beware of that if you have big stairways to navigate. Yeah, like we do have some of those stairways, we do. And then even the rocks, if you have a very rocky, you got to wear sturdy shoes so that you keep your ankles appropriately aligned. Okay, here we go. Non-breeding birds. I'm going to be sharing quite a few different birds, not just the ones that we're going to discriminate from pigeon guillemots, but a lot of birds that we will commonly see. And so we should know those as well, even though we would not confuse them with pigeon guillemots. And the first thing I'm going to do is show you several pictures of non-breeding pigeon guillemots, just so you get a feel of it. Now there's one with definite red feet. I knew I'd seen a picture of that. This is Govinda. She's from Whidbey, and she must have been looking down in clear water. Somehow she was able to get the feet. That's amazing. Usually on a non-breeding pigeon guillemot, no matter what phase they're in, that white wing patch is going to show. A lot of white on the head and neck and underparts, and a lot of mottling otherwise. Let's look at some more. There's one that's really white. Mostly it looks black and white. Don't see much gray. There is a little dark around the eye, it looks like. But you can see the white patch even with the wedge, the black wedge in it. Here's some that Shannon saw, and these were taken in, I wrote November, Shannon, you can correct me about that. It was quite a little group of them, and they all have, the wing patch, and these might have been not quite all the way transitioned because they do have a lot of gray. And there's one with even more white. Now, Shannon, I don't remember. I thought that was one of the November ones, but maybe that was one of the March ones. Do you remember?
Let's see. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know.
I thought I would recognize it,
but the way I would have to do is go back and see which ones it was near. And there's one with a little dark on it as well. Maybe some transitional, and maybe some of them don't make it all the way to white. We don't really know. but just get a feel for that and realize how white they are when there's light on the water. All you're going to see is a light spot. And there's a lot of other white birds too, so we have to really try to get a scope on them. Okay, well, all that starts in August, late August, and Shannon was able to be there for that. And they just are beginning at that time. So they get very spotted and blotchy looking. They just start turning to their winter plumage. And there's one that Govinda got as well. And some of you may see this in late August. I've seen them at Frisco Point before. Before we're even done with summer survey, but you can still see the wing patch, the white wing patch. Now, this is something that was new to all of us. Where was this, Shannon? At Zittles?
This is at Zittles.
And I know we were puzzling earlier today because I noticed they didn't have red feet, and I thought, and then I thought, I couldn't remember if they have, because in the wintertime, they're going to be on the water most of the time. You're not going to see them flying a lot. I mean, occasionally maybe, but you don't get a chance to see their feet as much like we do when they land in the summer. This guy decided to sit up on a log at the marina, so we got to see a good look at his or her feet. So therefore, Shannon, what did we conclude?
I think this was a fledgling.
Yeah, or at least a juvenile.
Or a juvenile, yeah. He was pretty mottled. And actually, I think one of the previous pictures was this same guy. After he jumped off the log, I followed him for a little bit. I harassed him.
Anyway, funny looking feet, but they're not red. Okay. Now, these definitely came from late March, so you can see some of them are still in non-breeding plumage on the left bird, and on the right bird, same trip, I believe, if I got your picture straight, Shannon. This one is in breeding plumage. But, this bird turned around and put their wings up just so Shannon could take a picture of them. Let's see which one's next here. Okay, now we're going to look at some of the other alcids. That's the family that Pigeon guillemots belong to. I'm going to take the rhinoceros auklet first because I do see these in the winter some. And these are in, well, that right one is actually, breeding plumage because you can see the white, long white feathers they have. I thought that was my earlier view of that, and I never had the slides up this big. And but anyway, somebody wrote it as a non-breeding. Could be transitional. The reason they're called rhinoceros auklets is they have a little horn on the nose end of the head end of their bill, and that actually stays some during the winter. It's not as prominent. Maybe it's because it doesn't have the extra feathers on it. But on the left picture, that's pretty much what you're going to see. It's just, and oftentimes they might be alone or they might be in a group like this. But notice they're just a heavier bird. The head is bigger, the bill is bigger. There's not much white. They may be light colored underneath, but not white. And I think they're about the same, or maybe a little larger than pigeon guillemots, but they definitely look like they're heavier. Now I'm going to show you what they look like in breeding, just so you know what bird you're not going to see this in the winter, but a lot of these birds will be turning into breeding plumage when we are still doing non-breeding survey, because our non-breeding survey really includes a pre-breeding survey, all the way through May, because we don't start the official weekly ones until June. So it's good to also see what their breeding survey is. Okay, these are non-breeding marble murrelets. And I was surprised, Maria, to find out that marble murrelets are plain brown in their breeding plumage. How opposite is that? Well, I guess I would too if I was flying into the woods, huh? Anyway, it's our smallest alcid in this area. So you have some dark on top, The white scapulas, their shoulders there. And let's see here. And sometimes they look really hunched like that, or other times they might, like a pigeon guillemot, have their neck up tall. And it says that, whoa, I'm sorry, I shouldn't go clicking. It says they can be seen in around the Sound for most of the year. And does that sound true to you, Maria, that they're oftentimes in pairs?
I think singles and in pairs.
Yeah.
Rarely in flocks. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some alone too. Okay, so that's the small. So think of little tiny murrelets, then pigeon guillemots, and then the bigger cousin is the mirror. Now I managed to find on BirdWeb or Puget Sound Seabird Survey, pigeon guillemots compared with common mirrors. So the top two are pigeon guillemots in some sort of non-breaming plumage. And the bottom ones are common mirrors, and they're quite a bit bigger. And notice that line that comes out of the eye, that dark tear streak or whatever it is. And notice the beak, the bill is just, it's larger, it's longer. So the whole shape of the head is different. Okay, so that's our mirrors. So that is all the cousins in the family of alcids. And by the way, you guys can chime in with questions or observations. It's fine. So, and before we continue, are there any things about alcids? Okay. Oh. Okay, well, here's a non-breeding loon, you know, and we will see our beautiful loons in black and white, some as it gets towards breeding season. But usually we're going to see the common loon looking quite gray. So it's a bird with very, how come that says alcid there? They're not alcids. I got to go back. Yeah, that's a mistake. A large, and so large bill, white around the eye, thick neck. Here's a couple more. On the one on the right, you can see this collar. It's a partial dark collar around the neck. And the loons do stand up in the water or lean forward and beat their wings like a lot of ducks do. So you'll see them do that. That way you can see the under part of their wings. Okay, let's go to the grebes. So our horned grebe is our smallest one we are going to see in the winter time. Gray-black, white on the lower half of the face and neck, and dark on the top of the head. It seems like the dark kind of cuts right through the middle of the eye from what I'm looking at. And I'd say generally that's our most common. They're not usually in large flocks, although I have seen a group. A lot of times I see them alone, but they're diving all the time. And they do mix in with pigeon guillemot some. I mean, you know, just crossing paths, not that they're doing anything together, but. Okay, the western grebes we do have at our site. This is a bird that precipitously had a terrible down in their population, you know, since the 70s. And I think that they might be starting to level off or starting to increase again. Beautiful, graceful, long neck, much bigger than the horned grebe. The black on top, look at that sharp, long, sharp bill. And then there's this contrast between the black and white. And on the western grebe, the black, the line between is right below the red eye. There's actually another species that's very similar that has the black above the eye. It's called Clark's grebe. I don't know how much we see those here, but I decided we wouldn't get too complicated about that. But, you know, the one on the bottom, I mean, I like to see them like this up on top where their neck is extended. Then it looks exactly like a Western grebe should look. If they get all hunched, they start looking like some of the others and it gets confusing, especially at a distance when you can't tell what size you're looking at. That's the trick, you guys. When it's way far away, you don't have anything to compare size to, and it is challenging. All right, let's go on to the next one. Okay, I decided to put all the grebes and guillemots together in one. So, this could be a quiz, couldn't it? Why not? Okay, which bird is on the top left? Anybody? Or you can put it in the chat if you don't want to answer.
Horn grebe on the upper left.
Can you all see what I'm looking at?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I guess I don't. Oh, I know. Some people are muted. Okay, let's try that again. Anyway, top left in chorus. 1, 2, 3.
Horn grebe.
Horn grebes. Thank you. Okay, top right.
Western grebe.
Western grebe. Western grebe. Now, what happened to the bottom one? I wonder if I accidentally deleted his picture. Well, this one on the bottom left, you guys, you may know those fun little birds, a friend of mine. This is the pied-billed grebe, and they're generally in freshwater, but if there's plant material and he's eating a fish there, they will be in saltwater some. So, and they're almost always solitary or in pairs. They're brown, but it is about the size of a pigeon guillemot. What do we have in the middle on the bottom row? Yeah, we have some pigeon guillemots that are, you could see the variation in color then between that picture and the really light one on the far right bottom. Yeah, I don't know what happened to my pied-billed grebe. I probably bounced right over the slide. Okay, look at this. Every once in a while you get a picture, or somebody gets a picture of a bird with a fish that is so big. I've seen pictures like this of cormorants and other species. Oh boy, that's gonna take a while. Oh, here's the pied-billed grebe. Okay, yeah, small brown. Usually, more usually in freshwater. Okay, let's go to waterfowl. Probably the most common and numerous, the most numerous maybe waterfowl we might see. There's one really big one, and that's this one, and one really little one, which is the bufflehead. So let's start with the big ones. Let's start with our scoters. So we're talking solid black male with white patch on the forehead and one on the back of the head that's not showing in this picture, but I have one in a moment to show you. But so the things that show from a distance, like Karen said, where's the white? Is the white on the forehead and the back of the neck, basically, on the male. Now look at the little tiny picture on the right and the orange, the big, huge orange bill. So that's, you see from a distance, that's what's showing on that black bird. You can see some of the white and you can see some of the orange on the bill. And those things show up a long ways off, really long ways. Now, as usual, the female ducks are always challenging, but this one has a little bit of white smudge near the ears and at the base of the bill. Now, there's a good look at the male with that white on the back. And when you're looking through a scope, it almost feels like you're looking at the front of a bird when you're looking at that white spot. It's just strange that it's on the back, I think. But anyway, the orange bill always shows up really well. And they also have white eyes, but you're definitely not going to see that from a long ways off. Now there's another scoter. It's even larger. It's not as common, but they're really gorgeous. But they do have a white wing patch. And so that's why we throw it in here, because, you know, if it's way off and you can't tell the size, and you see a dark bird with a white wing patch. But usually the white wing patch does not show a lot on the white winged scoter. But they do have this teardrop eye, white on the eye, which is very interesting. And there's another female with some lot of blotchy and a little bit of lighter color on the cheek and the bill again. So they're not as common, but they are around. Okay, so here's a contrast between the two males. On the top, we have the white-winged with the teardrop eye. And there you can see the wing patch a lot better. And then the surf scoter at the bottom. So surf scoter is by far the most common, and you'll see a lot of those birds. They're in huge groups out there. So just do the best you can to count. The best way to count a large flock of birds is to take a chunk of it and get an estimate of that one, and then figure out how many chunks of that size. So let's say you count a chunk this size and there's 10 birds in it, and then go to the next piece that big. And and then you can get an estimate. And that's all we can do. So as you can see from way far away, yeah, they're blackbirds with white wing patch. So, and we could have this at the same time because, because the Guillemot could very well be in this, in breeding plumage when the white winged scoter is around. Okay, bufflehead, female bufflehead particularly is another little black and white bird. She's got white on her cheek and underneath, which is kind of dusty looking. And the males from a distance out in the water look like almost all white. They're one of the whitest looking birds from a distance. So then you have to take another look through the scope to see, well, is it shaped like a guillemot? Because notice these birds are ducks. They are not shaped like a pigeon guillemot. They have a ducky bill. That looks like it could be one of the rubber duckies going down the waterfall or something. Yeah, they're cute. I like them. But that's one to check out, both the male for a white duck way out and the female, which is smaller, it says. And there's all that extra color that obviously is probably breeding plumage, but they're very beautiful when they fly. Okay, now let's go to golden eyes. This is the common. The common has a circle dot on its cheek for its face marking. And it's pretty much plain white, solid white on the side. Notice this female, if you can see it, there's a little golden yellow tip at the end of the bill, but it's a dark bill otherwise. Now this is for the advanced stuff, so don't worry. Female, there's a whole webpage on brown female ducks, you know. Okay, now this is the barrows, and it has a crescent, a white crescent on the side of the face, and this ribbing on the back, on the shoulders. And the female's bill is smaller and lighter. It's yellow. There's not good light there, but and there's more of a slope on the forehead. And you'll see either or both of those. Barrows like to be, maybe they all like to be near streams. Here's one with the two females. So this is your advanced lesson. There you can see on the left, the dark and larger bill of the common, and the right is the barrows with the yellow bill, and her eye is, well, they both are probably golden eye, yeah. But it looks like her eye is especially Okay, ruddy duck. We do see those in Eld Inlet over by Evergreen. Sometimes these can be in flocks with quite a few. Apparently it's the only one that belongs to this family of ducks that are called stiff-tailed ducks. So it does have a spiky tail with this, and the female has this light-colored line through her white cheek. But their shape is kind of distinctive. That's ruddy ducks. You know, I threw them in
for a second here. We are at 8 o'clock, so if you need to leave us, please feel free to do so. This is being recorded right now, and we will post this to our website and make it available for folks to view later. So if you have to leave now, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having a great season. All right, continue.
Okay, mallards are in salt water, yes, right near the edge or on the beach, and they're very common. Surprising, you know, you think of them as a freshwater bird only. Widgeons spend some time in salt water too, but same as mallards, they're dabblers, so they want to be in wetlands where there's plants, you know. And the male widgeon has the white forehead. That's the key on that one. And again, with a lot of these ducks, the idea is the females, just see who she's hanging out with. That'll give you a clue. I mean, some bird experts say that, so it makes some sense, you know, because they can be tricky. Mergansers, we could have common mergansers, beautiful large ducks with very long, sharp bills. And the female's crest doesn't always show the spiky hairdo on the common. But, you know, here's a common in flight. Mergansers just look like this straight arrow bird. And they'll swim along with their face in the water. And, you know, they're diving ducks, so they are actually apparently looking for their food rather than scooping food in their mouth because they're diving ducks. That's what I'm assuming. And the red-breasted merganser, the male has a red beak again and a white collar and spiky hairdo as well. They're here November through April. And here's several pictures, and there's the only one I could find of the female for the red-breasted merganser. Oh, grebes and guillemots. We already did this. Guess what? I wonder if we didn't take some slides out here. Cormorants. In a distance, you may just see mostly the neck because their neck is extended. So we have yellow on the bill, maybe again, could be large numbers. And you see them in flight in summer, but they're there in the winter also. And of course, doing their usual drying their wings. Another fish going down. So yeah, maybe you miss watching fish deliveries. You can watch these guys anytime eating fish. So here's one of our small gulls, the new gull in non-breeding plumage. But picture this way out, way past 300 yards. You know, and a guillemot nearby. Yeah, it's going to be tricky. So that's why there's a limit to how far out we can actually identify. It depends on the quality of your scope in a lot of ways and the conditions. So here's a pigeon guillemot on the left and some gulls on the right, and the photographer did not identify them. But, you know, from a distance, a little bit of black and white, there you go. Okay, and thanks to Shannon for one more picture. This is at Briscoe Point, and there's the cormorants that are always up there drying their wings. But that's the kind of beauty we're out there to see, you guys, at our sites and all the birds and everything. So thank you all for doing it. And we thank you for coming tonight as well. We really appreciate the work. It gives us a better picture of our sites and a better picture of the life history of the birds and other birds sharing the same space and the same ecosystem. Back to you, Terrence. And then if you guys have any questions.
I should unmute myself. Okay, well, thank you, Anne, for going through that long list of different familiar and less familiar and similar looking seabirds to the Guillemot. So I know there's a lot to take in for some of you who are maybe a little bit less familiar with some of these birds. So are there any questions from anyone as far as any specific ID comparisons? You can put questions in the chat, or you can just talk them out.
Hi, I have a question about the species of loons and cormorants. I know you had identified the loons we saw today at Edgewater as common loons, but do we see the Pacific and the other one? And also with cormorants, is it really only the double-crested that we should expect to see?
So I'll let Anne answer the loon question, and I will take the cormorant question, because I can actually answer the cormorant question. We were just out, Shannon and I and Ross Skinner, on Monday, and we were over by Eagle Island, and there's a navigation marker there marking the shoal, and we saw both double-crested and pelagic cormorants hanging out on the same structure. Now, I didn't realize this because I always assumed that when I saw cormorants that they were all the same because the other cormorant species are much less common in the areas that we survey. But we do have multiple species of cormorants that are present. So Anne, if you want to talk about the loons.
Yeah, I think Pacific loons would be possible in this area. But, you know, when I looked on the Puget Sound Seabird Survey comparative picture, it was just impossible almost to tell. I mean, they're very detailed things that you have to look for. And I'm not sure that our visibility is going to be that great. So I thought we've got enough to think about right now. Let's just hit the major ones. But yes, there are, there's another loon as well. I believe it's, and you can see them down at the coast and stuff, red-bellied or yellow-bellied or something like that. But we don't have them here a lot. So we're not going to worry about them, but feel free to look them up if you'd like.
A question in the chat about optics. What sort of scope are people using? What range? How much more powerful are they than binoculars? All very good questions. And so I believe that we currently have one loaner. We're working on getting a second loaner scope made available. And do you remember the specifications on the one that you've got loaned out?
It's 20, a lot of them, generally 20 by 60, I think is what they are. And mine's smaller because I carry a smaller weight, and it's still better than my binoculars, but it's not as, you know, I think you're carrying more weight for more magnification. 20 by 60, I believe.
Yeah, and to answer that last question about how much more powerful they are than binoculars, and the way that I look at it is that they're a very nice tool to have. They're not absolutely necessary, but the reason why I like them is because I use binoculars for spotting the birds in the first place. And then when I spot something that I can't identify, then that's when I use the spotting scope to zoom in on that bird and look for any key features that would allow me to figure out what it is. Okay, just a couple comments in the chat there. Red-throated loons are fairly common. Yellow-billed are not common. And I will actually couch that by saying that yellow-billed are actually locally common. You can actually see them right now up in the Strait of Juan de Fuca around Protection Island, and they're just everywhere. And actually the same goes for a lot of birds in general up by that area. I mean, if you ever take a boat out there, there's just going to be millions of birds out there, and you'll be amazed at all the different number of birds and species of birds that you can see out there.
Hey, Terrence.
Yes.
I've noticed that I actually skipped my last slide, which was photo credits. And I just want to say, it says, thank you for the many hours devoted to taking those photos and sharing them for education. Number one, Shannon. Shannon's on the NRNC board and a Pigeon Guillemot volunteer. The other two, Mick Thompson is with Eastside Audubon, and I used most of his pictures. And another one that I used was Tom Gray from Seattle Audubon. And his can be found on Seattle Audubon's webpage. So thank you to the photographers. Oh, and Govinda, I also had some of Govinda's pictures from Whidbey Island. She's been sharing them since year one.
Great. Any other questions from anyone? No? All right, well, if there's no other questions.
I do have one question.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Out on Bristow Point, every morning, and it just started in October pretty much, every morning after sunrise, over time, I'll see hundreds of small black birds. They just look black. They fly really fast, so I cannot identify them with my binoculars. And they'll be like in groups of 5, 10, 30, and they fly south in the morning after sunrise. And then in the evening after sunset, they all fly the other way. And I have no idea what kind of birds they are. And I only see them in the winter.
Are they way, way far away, did you say, Brenda?
Yeah, they're too far for me to identify. Yeah. They just look mostly black. I have noticed some have a little white patch on their head, and I can't even tell if it's the front or the back. I'm telling you, they fly so fast. It's so hard to just keep my binoculars on them to track them. And I'm thinking after looking at some of your photos, they might be a scooter.
They are.
Could be. Oh, and if you're close enough to the scoters, another thing is the sound when they take off carries quite a ways. The sound of their wings, it's just.
I only see them in flight.
Yeah.
I never see them land.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so what Anne's talking about is their wings whistle when they fly.
They're too far from me.
It's very distinct. So if you look it up, I think on BirdWeb or All About Birds, they should have a recording of the scoters, and they do generally form relatively large size groups, but they can be smaller groups too. And yeah, I would agree with Laura in that they're probably scoters, but it's hard to be completely sure.
Yeah, if I could get a picture or a video, they just fly so fast. Yeah. And they're so far out in the channel that I just can't see any identification marks. I have seen a few white spots on, it seems like on the back of their head, or maybe at the front.
Scooter. Yeah.
Well, like when I saw your pictures, I thought, well, that's what they must be, because they're just too fast. I can't identify them.
The other thing to check out would be brant geese.
Okay. I will look in my book to get an idea of what they look like.
Brant seems like it's a little bit early, and also I think the color is very different, although at a distance, depending on the light condition, they could conceivably, I guess Brants, yeah, they are mostly black, so it would be hard to see the necklace at that range. So that's a possibility too.
You're talking about the cormorants, Terrence?
No, Brants.
Okay.
The goose.
These are small birds. That's what makes me think they might be the scooter, but I'm just not familiar enough.
Mergansers will do that too. They'll go in little small flocks, and at a distance, everything looks dark. So mergansers do fly super fast, and they fly really low on the water.
Okay.
So, and when they're flying, their little crest goes down, so that whole marker is kind of like lost.
Okay. I'll keep an eye out.
Yeah, lighting and distance are the two main factors that affect your ability to identify birds. And I guess also if you're looking at birds that are on the water, that's a whole different scenario. But
well, yeah, these are always just flying just above the water, close to the water, and just so fast.
So some more challenging things is choppy water, because the pigeon guillemot, they disappear between each wave, and so do all the other small birds. So that's almost as bad as diving, just trying to catch them between waves.
Yeah.
And light, when those of us that are facing east, which is most of us, I think, a lot of us anyway, I would prefer an overcast day, because the light is actually better than a bright sunny day. Of course, you look one direction, bright sun might be good, but if you're facing into the sun, so yeah, just a mildly overcast day. It's not bad, except you might get lots of gray and black.
Great. So I hope everyone found this training useful. If you have any additional questions, feel free to send them our way. And if there's anyone who feels like, I'm still not completely sure about my bird ID, we're more than happy to set up additional Zoom sessions where it can be a little bit more informal, and we can just talk about birds like we're talking about right now, and you just tell us what you're seeing, and we can kind of help you figure out what it is that you might have seen. Or if there's one bird in particular that maybe you want to be able to get better at, we can certainly do that too. So hope you all have a good time out there. Thank you for coming tonight, and look for updates coming. I believe it will be next week. Gosh, I can't believe November is almost here. So, all right. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.